Welcome to the Bare Metal Cyber CRISC Prepcast. This series helps you prepare for the exam with focused explanations and practical context. Information security plays a central role in risk management, protecting the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of systems and data. These three qualities form the foundation of the security discipline and must be preserved in any technical or business environment. When security is weak or improperly managed, it increases the likelihood of risk events, audit findings, and regulatory actions. CRISC professionals must understand that security is not a separate function. It is deeply integrated with risk identification, assessment, and mitigation. Collaboration between security and risk professionals ensures that controls are not just implemented, but also aligned with the organization's strategic objectives and operational needs. On the exam, expect scenarios where the right security measures support risk goals and where their absence highlights major gaps. The foundational principles of information security serve as the compass for selecting and evaluating controls. Confidentiality ensures that only authorized individuals have access to sensitive information and is often enforced through access controls, encryption, and user permissions. Integrity refers to the accuracy and reliability of data, making sure that it has not been altered or corrupted, either accidentally or maliciously. Availability guarantees that systems and information are accessible when needed, which supports both user productivity and business continuity. Additional principles include authentication, which verifies user identity, non-repudiation, which ensures that actions cannot be denied later, and accountability, which requires that all user activity is traceable. These principles are not abstract. They directly inform how controls are selected, prioritized, and tested. The exam will often present a control failure and ask which principle was violated. Understanding these core ideas is critical for mapping risk to controls. For more cyber-related content and books, please check out cyberauthor.me. Also, there are other podcasts on cybersecurity and more at baremetalcyber.com. Security controls fall into several categories, and each plays a distinct role in protecting information assets. Preventive controls are designed to stop security incidents before they happen. These include firewalls, strong authentication mechanisms, and encryption protocols. Detective controls identify and alert when something has gone wrong. Intrusion detection systems, log review processes, and security information and event management platforms are examples. Corrective controls are used to respond to incidents and return systems to a secure state, including patching vulnerabilities and restoring backups. The key to effective security is layering these controls. This is known as defense in depth. Controls must be matched to specific risk scenarios and tested for overlap, gaps, and effectiveness. On the exam, a scenario might describe a breach that occurred despite multiple controls, signaling that the controls may not have been comprehensive or properly tested. CRISC professionals must understand that it is not just about having controls. It is about having the right ones in the right places, working together. Information security governance begins with policy, and policy defines what security looks like in practice. A good security policy outlines the required behaviors, establishes roles and responsibilities, and defines acceptable use of systems and data. These documents must be formally approved by the appropriate governance body and reviewed at regular intervals to stay current with changes in technology and regulation. Enforcement mechanisms, such as employee training, monitoring programs, and disciplinary consequences, help make sure the policy is followed. A policy that is ignored or unenforced is functionally useless. On the exam, a missing or outdated policy often signals a governance failure, and the correct answer will involve reinforcing the policy lifecycle. For CRISC professionals, understanding how policy shapes control design and user behavior is essential for aligning risk strategy with real-world operations. Security frameworks provide a structured approach for organizing security efforts and ensuring comprehensive coverage. ISO and IEC 27001 is a globally recognized standard for managing information security through a defined system of controls, known as an information security management system. The NIST cybersecurity framework is widely used for its 5 functions: identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover, and supports lifecycle-based planning. COBIT focuses on integrating IT governance and control with business goals, while the CIS controls provide a prioritized set of specific safeguards to implement across environments. These frameworks help organizations structure their security programs, prepare for audits, and plan for ongoing improvement. On the exam, the ability to recognize which framework supports which type of need, whether strategic governance or tactical control, will help in selecting the best response. Matching the framework to the scenario is a critical test skill. Applying frameworks requires more than just selecting one and implementing it blindly. Organizations must evaluate which frameworks match their regulatory obligations, industry context, and current maturity level. Strategic frameworks like ISO or NIST can be combined with more tactical resources like CIS or OWASP to create a balanced program. Once selected, the framework serves as a map to evaluate control coverage, highlight areas of risk exposure, and justify new investment. If a scenario on the exam describes security controls that were implemented without any framework alignment, that is usually a signal that the program lacks assurance or traceability. Frameworks not only guide what to do, they also provide a common language for communicating with auditors, executives, and regulators. CRISC professionals must use them to bridge the gap between risk strategy and technical execution. Laws and regulations strongly influence how organizations design and enforce their security programs. Regulations such as the General Data Protection Regulation, the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, the Payment Card Industry Data Security Standard, and the Sarbanes-Oxley Act all require documented policies, minimum control sets, and robust incident response capabilities. These rules also require that organizations demonstrate compliance through evidence such as logs, training records, and audit trails. When violations occur, the consequences can include large financial penalties, legal liability, and damage to reputation. For CRISC professionals, staying aware of regulatory requirements is not optional. It is a key part of maintaining an effective control environment. On the exam, regulatory references often appear in scenarios involving policy gaps, breach reporting, or incomplete control implementation. The best answers demonstrate not just awareness of the law, but how those laws shape everyday risk and security decisions. Not every piece of data or system needs the same level of protection, and aligning security with the organization's risk, appetite, and tolerance is essential. Security decisions must reflect the value of the asset and the acceptable level of residual risk. Over-controlling low-risk systems can lead to inefficiency, slow user productivity, and resistance to compliance. Under-controlling critical systems can leave the organization exposed to serious threats. CRISC professionals must regularly review security decisions in the context of governance frameworks and strategic objectives. This includes understanding when to escalate decisions, how to apply compensating controls, and when to accept risk rather than mitigate it. On the exam, scenarios often describe environments where either too much or too little security was applied, and the correct answer reflects the need for alignment between control strength and business value. Security controls must be monitored, tested, and audited to ensure they remain effective over time. Internal audits help identify gaps, confirm compliance, and validate whether controls are functioning as designed. Penetration testing and vulnerability scans simulate attacks or look for known weaknesses. Risk assessments must be updated regularly to account for changes in the environment. Key risk indicators and key control indicators provide data about exposure levels and control health. Without this kind of ongoing review, even well-designed controls will eventually fail due to configuration drift, user error, or system changes. On the exam, questions often hinge on whether monitoring was active or whether control failures were allowed to persist undetected. Strong answers reflect the principle that assurance must be demonstrated continuously, not just assumed based on past performance. Security questions on the CRISC exam often test how well you understand principles, frameworks, and controls in context. One question might ask, which security principle is violated in a specific breach scenario, requiring you to match the failure to confidentiality, integrity, or availability? Another question might focus on framework selection, and you must know whether ISO supports policy structure, whether NIST supports full lifecycle management, or whether CIS focuses on specific technical controls. Some questions will ask what is missing from a security program, with correct answers involving governance structures, testing procedures, or training requirements. Others will focus on what risk a specific control addresses. Your task is to match the control to the scenario, not just define what it does. The best exam answers demonstrate alignment with recognized standards, use layered defense models, reinforce governance expectations, and connect back to risk strategy. Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Bare Metal Cyber Risk Prepcast. For more episodes, tools, and study support, visit us at baremetalcyber.com.